Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Story Time with Uncle Jake. So, something that, believe it or not, still, this was like 5 or 6 years ago, but something that a lot of people ask me about, and it's kind of a cool story, hence Story Time with Uncle Jake. I won an FLW tour event over on Lake Toho, and actually most of them came on Lake Kissimmee, but the tournament launched out of Lake Toho back in 2015, and waypoints were a big deal. And I'm not talking about spots. I actually had a bunch of fish that were spawning. You know, it's full moon. You know, it's coming right into a full moon. They were spawning on lily pads. But what I did is all during the 3 days of practice, I was fishing without a hook, and I was using a stick bait. I was fishing without a hook, but I wasn't trying to shake the fish off. When they would bite, I would lean into them and pull back a little bit, and you know, kind of judge how hard they pulled away, and kind of how big they were, and then I put waypoints right where my boat was sitting. Obviously, when you hit the waypoints, right where my boat was sitting, but I would change the colors of them to indicate whether it felt like it was a big fish or not. And believe it or not, once the event started, it worked perfectly to a T. Like, I mean, it was amazing. So I had red dots on what felt like the biggest fish, like a couple of them that, like, I remember I had one in particular. This is a good story. I had one in particular that actually stripped drag with no hook. It had bit down on the bait and the sinker so much that it stripped drag with no hook. So the first morning of the tournament, obviously that was a red dot, but the first morning of the tournament, I was boat like 125 or whatever. So I elected to stay and fish in Lake Toho until the lock got calmed down, because so many people were locking down to Lake Kissimmee, till it got calmed down. And I actually left Toho. I had a 4-pounder in the bucket already. So the end of that story will be I didn't weigh in that 4-pounder. I ended up just transporting him from Toho to Kissimmee. But anyway, so I went to the closest red dot once I got through the lock, got down to Kissimmee, and that just happened to be the one that stripped drag. Cast over there, pull it up next to the lily pad, tunk! And I remember that's back when we had co-anglers, and I remember before I even set the hook, I looked back at my co-angler and I said, "Grab that dipper, boy." And I set the hook. Long story short, it weighed 8.8. So an 8.8 has enough bite down that it can strip a little bit of drag with no hook. And that's Story Time with Uncle Jade.